You know, bobs are supposed to be simple, chic, timeless. That one haircut that works on everyone. Or so we were told. But have you ever had that moment? You walked into the salon full of hope, showed your stylist a photo, maybe even said, just a classic bob, nothing fancy. And yet, when it was all done, something felt off. It wasn't bad, exactly. But it didn't feel right either. Maybe your face looked heavier or sharper. Maybe the angles felt too harsh, or your features seemed to disappear. And you thought, wait, I thought bobs were supposed to flatter everyone. You're not alone. I've heard this story from so many women over 60. And I've been there too. Here's the truth no one tells us. A bob is only beautiful if it fits your face. And after 50, that fit becomes even more important because our faces evolve. Just like our style, our energy, and our hair. The bone structure softens, the jawline shifts, the texture changes, often in ways and what used to be your signature cut might now be quietly aging your features or simply not feeling like you anymore. But this isn't about chasing youth. It's about choosing better, smarter, softer. And if you've ever looked in the mirror and thought, why doesn't this haircut feel like mine anymore? I promise you, it's not your imagination. In just a moment, I'll show you the 3 biggest bob mistakes most women over 60 make, especially when it comes to face shape. But more importantly, I'll show you how just a few small changes in length, parting, or angle can completely transform the way you look and feel. This is based on real women, real stories, and what's worked again and again. So stay with me, because the fix is simpler than you think. And the right bob, it doesn't just frame your face, it reveals it. Let's start with one of the most common and most misunderstood bob mistakes: the overly angled bob on a square face. Now, if you've got a square face, chances are you've heard it called strong, structured, or defined. And that's true. Square faces are striking. They often have a beautiful, balanced width with a confident jawline. But here's the catch. The wrong bob, especially one with sharp, downward angles, can throw all of that off. You've seen this before. That edgy, chin-length bob that drops dramatically from back to front. It's meant to feel modern. But on a square face, it can feel severe. Instead of softening your jawline, it mirrors it. It doubles down on the angles, and suddenly your features feel harsher, not cleaner. I once had a friend, 62, elegant, always well put together, who tried this exact style. And the first thing her daughter said, "Why does your haircut make you look stern?" It wasn't the cut. It was how it fought her face shape. You might have picked this look hoping it would feel sleek and slimming. And instead, it made your face look wider or even boxier. You're not imagining it. It's one of the most common bob fails I see among women over 60. Here's why. Too many stylists still cut based on trends, not on architecture. But your face is the blueprint. So what works instead? If you have a square face, think curved, not carved. Go for a slightly longer bob that grazes just below the jawline, with gentle rounding at the ends. No sharp drop, no heavy front line. A side part can work wonders here. A well-known stylist once told me, strong faces don't need strong lines, they need smart ones. Because the goal isn't to hide your bone structure, it's to honor it without exaggerating it. And here's a question for you to reflect on. Have you ever had a haircut that made your jawline feel too bold? Let me know in the comments. You're definitely not alone. Coming up next, We'll talk about a mistake that feels even smaller, but often makes the biggest difference in how your bob frames your face. Most women never realize they're doing it wrong. Now let's talk about something that seems so small you almost don't think about it. Where you part your hair. It sounds simple, too simple to matter. But the truth is, for women over 60, especially those with round or long faces, it's one of the easiest ways to throw off the balance of your entire haircut. Let's start with round faces, fuller cheeks, a soft jawline, that lovely youthful symmetry, which can be charming. Until your haircut starts exaggerating that softness in all the wrong ways. A deep center part on a round face, it splits everything down the middle. And suddenly, your cheeks feel fuller, your face looks wider, and that youthful glow turns into something that just feels puffy. I know this one too well. I wore a middle part for over a decade, thinking it looked clean and classic. Until I saw a photo from my grandson's birthday and thought, wait, is that really how wide my face looks? That was my wake-up call. And long faces, the mistake flips. That same center part pulls the eye downward, making your face feel even longer. What used to feel elegant can suddenly feel stretched and tired, like everything's slipping south, even when it's not. So what's the fix? For round faces, try an off-center or deep side part. It creates instant lift and breaks up width, guiding the eye across instead of down. Pair it with a slightly longer bob, say around the collarbone, and you'll create a soft, vertical flow that's incredibly flattering. For long faces, volume is your best friend. A bob with soft layers that hit near the cheekbones, or gentle waves that bounce just above the shoulders, can bring life back into your proportions. Avoid flat, pin-straight styles, they only emphasize the length. One hairstylist I trust calls it playing with diagonals, shifting the balance just enough to create harmony, because in the end, it's not about symmetry. It's about harmony between your features, your part, and the overall energy of your haircut. And I'd love to know, are you team middle part or side part? Has switching ever changed how your whole face felt in the mirror? Let me know in the comments. I love hearing your stories. And up next, we're going to look at a bob mistake that has nothing to do with face shape, but everything to do with how your hair behaves. And spoiler, most stylists don't warn you about this one. Now let's talk about the sneakiest bob mistake of all, the one that hides in plain sight and catches so many of us off guard after 60. Getting a bob that ignores your natural texture. We've all done it. You see a gorgeous photo, sleek, glossy, smooth lines that just glow. You save it, take it to your stylist and say, "That's what I want." But then you walk out with something that doesn't look or act anything like the picture, not because the cut was wrong, but because it wasn't right for your hair. If your hair is fine and silky, that sharp blunt bob might hang flat, lifeless, no bounce, no shape. If it's wavy or coarse, the same cut might puff out into a triangle, or worse, frizz the moment you step outside. And if your texture's changed with age, welcome to the surprise party. According to dermatologists, after 50, most women experience a 20 to 30% reduction in hair density, especially at the crown. Hormones shift, texture shifts. Even the way your hair holds moisture changes. So when we stick to the same old cuts or chase ones that ignore what our hair is trying to tell us, we end up with styles that demand more work than they're worth. I had one client, 67, silver hair, always moving, who kept fighting her bob every morning. flat crown, frizzy ends, curling iron in one hand, mousse in the other. Until we tried something different. A soft, layered bob that worked with her waves. Now she lets it air dry. No frizz, no fuss. She says it's the first time she's had wash and go hair in 15 years. Because here's the secret. Don't choose your bob based on how it looks on someone else. Choose it based on how your hair behaves on you. So what works? For fine or thinning hair, try a layered bob with soft lift at the crown. It creates natural volume without stiffness. Add a bit of lightweight texture spray. Done. For wavy hair, go with a textured bob that lets your natural wave live freely. Face framing pieces, side part, no hot tools necessary. For coarse or curly hair, skip the blunt cuts. Ask for internal layering, structure around the collarbone. And watch the shape come to life without puffing out. Do you feel like your hair has changed in the last few years? What used to work, still working? Or have you had to rethink everything too? And here's the best part. We're not done yet, because next, I'll show you what actually does work across face shapes and textures. It's not about chasing trends. It's about listening to your hair and choosing balance over battle. So after all that, sharp angles, center parts, texture battles, you might be wondering, is there even a bob that works anymore? The good news? There isn't just one. There are many. But here's the real shift, and it changes everything. It's not about chasing what's popular. It's about understanding your architecture. The shape of your jaw, the curve of your cheek, the way your hair falls when you let it just be. Once you stop asking, what's trendy, and start asking, what complements me, your haircut begins to serve you, not the other way around. One of my neighbors, Susan, 64, spent years bringing celebrity photos to her stylist, and each time she left feeling frustrated, until one day her stylist sat her down and said, "Let's forget what's trending and look at your face instead." They adjusted the length by half an inch, changed the part, softened the edges, and for the first time in years, Susan walked out and said, "I feel like myself again, just clearer." That's the kind of transformation no filter can offer. So what actually works? A bob that collaborates with your face, not competes with it. A part that lifts your features instead of flattening them. A length that meets your jawline where it naturally wants to land. Movement that softens rather than stiffens. And here's the twist. You don't need to find the perfect bob and stick with it forever. Because your face, it's still evolving. Your hair, it's still shifting. And you're still growing in style, confidence, and self-awareness. That's not something to work around. That's your starting point. Because when your haircut truly sees you, not the version of you from 10 years ago, or the one in someone else's Pinterest board, but you, today, it stops being a style. It becomes a frame. One that lifts, supports, and even celebrates the woman you've become. So don't give up on your bob. Just give it a better guide. And in a moment, I'll walk you through exactly how to get there, even if your hair is thinning, stubborn, or feels like it's working against you. So maybe it wasn't your face shape. Maybe it wasn't your age. Maybe it was just the wrong frame for the masterpiece that is you. Because let's be honest, a haircut isn't just about hair. It's about how you show up for yourself and in the world. And when the bob isn't working, it's not failure. It's feedback, a quiet little signal that something's ready to evolve. You don't need to fix your face. You don't need to fight your hair. What you do need is a haircut that listens, that adjusts, that understands where you are now, not 10 years ago. A bob can flatter any face shape if it's built with thoughtfulness, not templates. If it's shaped with respect, not rules. If it lifts your features and your energy. I'll say this from my own experience. The moment my haircut started fitting me, not some ideal I saw online, was the moment I felt visible again. And that feeling, it's not about looking younger. It's about looking like you, lighter, clearer lifted. If this resonated with you, I'd truly love to hear your thoughts. Have you had a bob that just didn't feel like yours? Or one that finally did? Tell me in the comments. Your story might help someone else find their turning point. And if you know a friend who's been quietly struggling with her hair too, send her this video. We're not meant to figure these things out alone.